Millions of female readers in America and around the world were glued to their screens, witnessing the moment a reigning queen was locked outside like a pitiful soul. A wave of immense gratification spread across public platforms as people saw the perpetual usurper finally brought to a halt. The arrival of the press was not part of any script Camilla had envisioned. Stranded convoy. Ultra-telephoto camera lenses and live television camera systems began operating at full capacity, zooming in close on every detail of the armored car, fully capturing Camilla's panicked, furious face behind the tinted glass. Suffocating pressure inside the passenger cabin. Two character arcs, representing two completely opposite values, stood facing each other through the iron bars of the gate. The dividing line between sides had never been so distinct and ruthless. Camilla tried to hold on to her last shreds of composure, her authoritative voice ringing through the gaps in the iron gate as she tried to use her title as queen to force her stepson to order the gates unlocked. She argued that William's action was a smear on the throne and an power of justice manifested in his every step. The prince stopped exactly one step away from the iron gates, standing tall behind the solid bars, looking straight into the eyes of Camilla, who had now been forced to step out of the car, unable to bear the sun's shadow, to live like a true queen. If she lost this place, her reputation and pride in front of the courtiers would be utterly destroyed. Over the phone, she relentlessly crushed the rebellion of his unruly son, restoring her dignity and ownership of the prestigious estate. Camilla's greatest fear was not waiting outside the gates, but realizing that her controlling power was being directly challenged. She knew that the Highland estate was the only place where she could completely cast off Diana, who dared to cause a riot inside. She repeatedly used overbearing words, forcing the king to act immediately to punish William in front of all the subordinates present at the scene. Camilla fully believed that with the supreme authority of the head of the dynasty, Charles would easily, who had been close to Diana's family for decades, immediately stepped out toward the main gate. The grand, heavy iron gates of Highland Mansion slowly swung shut, creating a solid barrier that completely separated the estate from the outside and the loser. Under the supreme command of the prince, the most loyal group of servants began executing the plan with split-second precision. Marcus Cornelius and Deja, strong enough and decisive enough to strip away the actual power Camilla held. The ownership of Highland Mansion was the tangible evidence of this war. It was no longer an abstract concept of influence, but a graspable asset, a clear geographical boundary to determine the winner. Activation of a strict succession trust clause under the Ancient Act of 1701. This was an ancient legal mandate dating back centuries, which absolutely stipulated that any royal real estate would automatically transfer ownership directly to the children of the Prince of Wales, specific memories of his mother's happy days. Allowing that woman to continue owning this place was a direct insult to the soul of the deceased. The strategic weapon William used to bring down his stepmother was not meaningless arguments, but the unilateral, specifically George, Charlotte, and Louis, in this case, if the reigning monarch married a divorced woman. The reality of Camilla's past marriage was a fatal loophole that she and her courtiers had deliberately ignored for so long on one side, and his current wife on the other. The king painfully admitted to Camilla a bitter truth. He had personally reviewed the trust mandate activated by William, and he himself had absolutely no way, no power to reverse the strict regulations of the Act of 1701. That suffocating silence from the other end of the line. King Charles III's voice sounded tired, trembling, and carried the pathetic helplessness of a man caught in a vice between an undeniable legal mandate. Pressured Charles, reminding him of the vows he had made to her years ago about a supreme position that no one could violate. Camilla's voice cracked with fury, her hand gripping the phone so tightly that her knuckles turned white. Yet in response to Camilla's fury and commands, there was only a long The horrific truth was finally exposed in the most detailed and brutal manner right on the oak table. Those old financial documents from the 1990s were not ready to demolish the entire system of lies that Camilla had painstakingly covered up for decades. King Charles III stared at the secret stamps on the table, his hands beginning to tremble as he realized that the day of reckoning for his treacherous wife had arrived, and unleashed a series of shocking financial documents from the 1990s. This was the result of a secret investigation campaign conducted by William alongside historian Damon Ashford and expert Dr. Cassia Fontaine. The papers, discolored by time, clearly revealed lines of dirty wire transfer orders, sinners exchange for the loyalty of henchmen, and cover up the filthy stains of the royal family. This cruelty and malice made anyone who looked at it shudder with rage. While Diana suffered isolation house arrest and mental smearing, the perpetrator behind the scenes calmly used her assets to make backroom deals with a blue ink sharp and full of greed. 3 abbreviated letters stood side by side like a life sentence for the villain CPB. This was the fresh signature of Camilla Parker-Bowles, a monster. More serious than all, at the bottom corner of each malicious transfer order, an undeniable piece of ironclad evidence appeared clearly. It was a handwritten signature by Jeffrey Epstein. The villains used Diana's very tears and rightful entitlements as tools for transactions in the dark. They used her medical money to protect. A massive amount of money from Diana's fund was transferred directly to underground organizations to cover up depraved acts and quietly settle allegations related to the billionaire pedophile. Diana's life-saving money had been covertly extracted twice in succession. The first time, the money was used to bribe the media, remove humiliating images, and settle the shocking media crisis of Sarah Ferguson. The second time, far more serious and filthy, a massacre of the House of Wales, the supreme symbol of legitimate inheritance power and royal protection, and pushed it gently toward William. The king officially surrendered. In a breathtaking moment that turned all predictions upside down, King Charles III did not flash in anger at William. Nor did he use his monarchical power to protect his wife as Camilla had anticipated. The king slumped into the oak chair, his aging face showing ultimate bitterness, humiliation, and disappointment upon learning that the wife he loved was despicable enough to steal Diana's medical fund. He slowly raised his trembling hand, personally removed the signet, transforming into an unyielding steel fortress where those inside could not leave and those outside could not enter. William stood tall in the center of the courtyard. Iron chains as thick as wrists were wound tightly several times around the cold iron bars, secured with the sturdiest padlocks. The entire estate was plunged into complete isolation within a split second, his hands thrust deep into his coat pockets, silently watching his stepmother's symbol of power being completely locked down. He knew her convoy was on its way here, and this tightly locked gate would be the most ruthless welcome for the villain. The life or death events granted by the king, but absolutely held no tangible rights regarding this estate. All ownership had officially transferred to George, Charlotte, and Louis the moment the mandate was executed. William's declaration through the iron bars of the gate was like a sentence of unforgivable disrespect to his father. However, in response to her, there was only a contemptuous look and a faint, decisive smile from William. The Prince of Wales spoke coldly, emphasizing every word clearly to ensure that the remote recording devices of the press could fully capture it. He directly informed his stepmother that based on ancient law, she only possessed a courtesy privilege when appearing at public, a symbol of luxury that Queen Camilla always proudly held as her own supreme privilege. But at exactly 12 noon that day, everything changed forever without a single warning. There were no prior signs in the media, nor were there any compromised discussions in the royal drawing rooms. The historic confrontation to reclaim justice for the deceased erupted with a decisive cold and ruthless action by Prince William. The young prince appeared in the central courtyard with a stone-cold face, his eyes staring intently at the colossal iron gates of the ancient estate, which was about to become the scene of a public castigation. William's goal was crystal clear and unyielding. He was determined to completely evict Camilla from the space she had usurped for many years. Courtier daring to step forward to help, she was forced to dejectedly climb into her car in utter humiliation, leaving the estate under the shameful pursuit of dozens, watching her 17 suitcases discarded like trash, listening to the iron chains of the Highland gates being permanently locked once again behind her back. She understood that she had lost everything: her honor, her ownership, and her public dignity. With not a single confirmation that the soul of the late mother was comforted, and justice, after nearly 30 years, was completely restored under this roof. Queen Camilla stood marooned in the mud, declaring he would abandon all rights to protect Camilla, and affirming that he would raise no objection to his son's eviction decree. Charles's act of personally removing the signet ring was the most ruthless finishing blow delivered to Camilla's fate. The woman who once thought she held the king's soul had now been abandoned by that very husband on the battlefield to save the royal family's honor. The villain's greatest support had completely collapsed. William took the signet ring, feeling the weight and coldness of the metal, knowing that victory was securely in his grasp. From outside the gate, Camilla received news of her husband's act of removing the ring over the phone from a trusted courtier. The phone in her hand dropped with a thud onto the car floor, her face turning pale and completely bloodless. The Queen's confidence and arrogance vanished in an instant, replaced by an absolute terror. As she realized she was completely isolated, stripped of all actual power, and left to face William's wrath entirely on her own. The cruel punishment and ultimate public humiliation were finally carried out against the villain in a deeply satisfying and gratifying closed ending. Right in the drawing room of Highland Mansion, a solemn atmosphere filled the air as independent historian Damon Ashford stood as witness. Ancient law expert Dr. Kezia Fontaine slowly spread out the Highland eviction from Highland Mansion. Will Queen Camilla accept being empty-handed and quietly disappear? Or is this highly ambitious woman secretly preparing another filthy counterattack from the shadows? Share your thoughts with us of media helicopters. Prince William stood inside the mansion's window, his gaze following his stepmother's defeated convoy as it faded into the curtain of rain. His hand tightly gripped the whale's signet ring, feeling true serenity and freedom returning to Highland. The promise made at 14 years old to his late mother had been fulfilled in the most complete and glorious manner. The villain had been publicly exposed, the cruel punishment had been executed, and a transparent, clean new chapter officially opened for the future generations of the British royal family. After the humiliating punishment and brutal his son's ruthless finishing blow to demand justice for his late mother, the ground beneath Highland Mansion choked in an eerie silence before the real storm swept through. This place was long considered an inviolable summer sanctuary. Jeffrey Epstein's sex scandal, bearing a fresh, greedy signature marked CPB belonging to Camilla herself. What cruel punishment awaits the most powerful woman in the royal family right behind the gate's iron bars? Will King Charles III choose to protect his guilty wife or accept defeat personally, handing over the signet ring before sounded and filmed live by a fleet of international press helicopters? The core issue of this historic confrontation goes far beyond an estate dispute. It lies in a filthy crime from the 1990s that has just been brought to light. The entire mental health treatment fund of the late Princess Diana was secretly drained to settle deference whatsoever to the fallen queen. They marched straight into Camilla's private bedrooms, confiscating all of her belongings, clothing, and jewelry. They packed everything into exactly 12 old royal leather suitcases, leaving none of her belongings behind in the mansion. Before the lenses of the press helicopters, still frantically filming from above, the three servants, took turns carrying these 17 leather suitcases out beyond the iron gates. Cornelius and Marcus worked together bluntly, hurling the entire collection of suitcases outside, causing them to land haphazardly, sinking deep into the muddy bog at the edge of the road right next to Camilla's armored wheels. This public humiliation was brought or cover things up. The courtiers in gray suits were completely silent, their faces turning ash gray with fear upon realizing that this MacGuffin piece of evidence was too flawless, impossible to diffuse with any press release to appease public opinion. They understood that the veil of lies they had painstakingly wrapped around Camilla for decades had been completely ripped to shreds by William. The crime of the woman locked outside the Highland gates had been stripped bare, revealing her true form as a base thief and accomplice to a crime against the deceased. The climax of the royal confrontation exploded with a twist completely beyond all of Queen Camilla's calculations and imagination. While isolated in humiliation outside the iron gates of Highland Mansion, Camilla still nurtured one final glimmer of hope in her power. Hurriedly stepped out of the car and walked toward the iron gates, trying to push them open with force, but the iron chains and large padlocks held everything fast, refusing to budge even an inch. The man returned to the car with a face as pale as a ghost, leaned close to the Queen's ear, and whispered a completely different and terrifying sight. The dark iron bars, wrapped in heavy chains, stood stark against the sky, coldly refusing the presence of the royal family's most powerful woman. Her close driver interrupted. She looked out the car window, expecting to see squads of guards bowing in welcome, as they did every year. But what struck her eyes now was a tearing open the veil of secrecy that had always hidden the royal family's internal infighting, plunging Camilla into an irrecoverable situation. He wanted the whole world to witness this woman being pushed out of the royal heritage like an outsider. Less than 30 minutes after the information was leaked, the sky above Highland Mansion began to echo. William secretly instructed his trusted subordinates to leak all information regarding the location and current situation of the Highland estate to major American and Western news agencies. This was a direct media strike with the rapid, roaring, high-pressure sounds of aircraft engines. A fleet of helicopters from international television stations rushed in, hovering at a low altitude right above the Queen's. Outside the tightly locked iron gates, the gravel road leading to Highland Mansion witnessed the arrival of Queen Camilla's luxurious armored convoy. The lead car abruptly slowed down and slammed on its brakes, causing a chain of escort vehicles behind it to stop in a chaotic jumble right at the estate's threshold. Camilla sat motionless in the premium leatherback seat, her eyebrows knitted in deep annoyance as she realized her private summer schedule was being unreasonably battle for inheritance and supreme honor was officially ignited, and this opening shot affirmed one truth. Camilla's era of usurpation at the Highland estate had officially come to an end. William had spent hundreds of nights meticulously studying every line of ancient text in old documents alongside expert Dr. Gazia Fontaine, ensuring that once this mandate was activated, it would be a precise strike locking down all avenues of escape for his opponent in a way that no one could break. The nature of the 1701 mandate allowed no negotiation or delay from either the king or his courtiers. It functioned like a steel trap that automatically snapped shut the moment the factual conditions were fully met. William knew that activating this clause would cause a seismic shock to the entire royal family. But he did not hesitate. He needed a blow. Ancient decree held supreme authority over conditional royal real estate. And once it was executed based on the fact that Camilla was a divorced woman, even the monarch could advise her to exercise restraint and temporarily step back to find another option. But each piece of advice only made the fire of anger in Camilla's heart burn more fiercely. She realized that the husband whose power she always relied on not break the iron chains of Highland. Charles tried to explain to his wife that William had made an incredibly cunning preemptive move using written regulations from the past to bind the hands of the crown. The king had cast live to millions of viewers, exposing the complete downfall of a greedy person before the public eye. It did not stop there. Cornelius and Marcos went back inside the main living room, working together to use their strength to tightly roll up the luxurious Vienna carpet, an item that Camilla had personally usurped and arranged to showcase her queenly power, and carried it outside to be completely isolated. Immediately after, Deja solemnly held the silver-framed portrait of the late Princess Diana, gently placing it back in its central position on the mantelpiece of Highland Mansion. The fire from the hearth flared up, illuminating Diana's radiant, smiling face like a proclamation. Secret archives and used media tactics to distract public opinion. They tried to convince the king that acknowledging Camilla's crime would shake the very foundations of the royal family's honor. But Prince William blocked all their avenues of retreat. He stood tall, his gaze completely devoid of fear, and bluntly declared that if the perpetrator was not punished immediately, this entire pile of filthy documents would be sent straight to the largest news agencies in America that very night. The pressure from the side of justice was so immense that it made the air in the room suffocating. King Charles III looked at his eldest son, then looked again at the signature of the wife he had defied everything to raise to the rank of queen. He understood that he was wrong, and the price to pay for his long-standing indulgence was far too high. Hundreds of camera lenses pointing at her, the main doors of Highland Mansion slowly opened. Prince William walked down the long gravel path leading straight to the iron gates, with an immensely majestic and cold demeanor. He carried no weapons and needed no grandiloquent words, only the... She tried to use a silk scarf to hide her face, which was distorted with rage, but high-resolution lenses captured every wrinkle and every helpless purse of her lips. Her security team tried to use large umbrellas to shield her, but the wind force from the helicopters above blew away all attempts at disguise. Camilla was completely exposed under the light of media justice, becoming the focal point of the most humiliating scandal of her life. Amidst the media storm, she awaited a glorious rescue where her unruly stepson would have to kneel, apologize, and return ownership of the summer estate to her. However, the emergence of the leather-bound financial ledger, along with the fresh signature marked CPB, completely changed the landscape of the battle. Confronted with the ironclad evidence of the crime of stealing Diana's fund money to cover up for Jeffrey Epstein, King Charles III completely collapsed. The courtiers in gray suits frantically tried to propose a covert compromise. They wanted to bury this ledger deep inside this full husband. She absolutely trusted that King Charles III would use his supreme authority as head of state to order security forces to smash William's resistance. After the public confrontation outside the gates, the real battle shifted inside the palace. Prince William entered the confrontation room where King Charles III and veteran courtiers, the men in gray suits, were waiting with anxious faces. These men tried to speak up in warning, wanting William to stop this aggressive action, to protect Camilla's face and the artificial stability of the royal family. Without bothering to reply, William coldly advanced toward the large oak table in the center. With the absolute confidence of a man holding justice, he slammed down a sealed leather briefcase, nailing down Camilla's ambitions, leaving her stranded amidst the media siege to taste bitter humiliation, right at the threshold of the summer estate she once thought she solely owned. Decisively signed his name officially and permanently, bringing an end to Camilla's presence at this estate. The moment the prince's signature was complete, the eviction order was instantly executed by the law.